Hey guys, in this video I'm going to explain the third logic game of LSAT PrepTest 73, which is the September 2014 LSAT. This is the game where we have the families T, W, and Y owning the 5 buildings F, G, I, M, and S. I've laid out a diagram and some rules here and I'll explain all of those. We know that W owns more than Y, so I've indicated that W is greater than Y in quantity. We know that neither I nor M is with F, so those cannot be horizontally together. And then we know that either TS or YI or both, of course. So I've indicated here that we have just TW and Y. Each one has at least one of the buildings, of course, and potentially more. However, given that there are exactly 5 buildings and that W has more than Y, two different possibilities result. We could either have W with 2 and Y with 1, or W with 3 and Y with 1. We cannot have W with 3 and Y with 2 because that would be 5 total, and then T wouldn't be able to have anything. And they tell us in the initial paragraph that T is going to have, that every family has at least one building. So two different distributions result. Either we have T has 2, W has 2, Y has 1, or T has 1, W has 3, Y has 1. Those are the two different ways that this game can break down, so I'll lay out those two different major possibilities now. So here we are, and that's pretty much the initial setup for the game. Not a whole lot to do other than realizing that distribution of spaces to families, and then we can go ahead and jump into the questions. So let's start with number 14, which is a typical orientation question. We'll just take one rule or inference at a time and apply it to all 5. And we've got some really simple rules to check for here, so I would just start there. We know that there are more, W has more than Y does. Scanning through the choices there, we see that choice D can be eliminated because W has 1 and Y has 2, so that's gone. And then looking at E, W and Y have exactly the same number, so we can eliminate that as well. So D and E are both gone. We can look for the rule that F is neither with I nor M. Scanning through the choices there, we see in choice C that F is with M. That's unacceptable, so C is gone. And then finally, TS or YI at a minimum has to occur, possibly both. And we see in choice B that neither of those things is happening. So B is gone, leaving A by elimination for number 14. Next, number 15, we're looking for a pairing of buildings where T could not have both of them. So scanning through the choices, obviously our previous example is 14A. T has both G and S there, so we know it's possible. That gets rid of choice C off the bat. Then beyond that, we want to think about, well, what's unique to T? Well, there's a rule saying that T, S, or YI has to occur. So meaning that if T does not have S, it could not possibly have Y. Sorry, could not possibly have I, because if T didn't have S, then Y would have to have I. So T can never lack S, yet still have I. And so scanning through the choices, we see in choice D that T has I but does not have S. That's unacceptable, and if D were true, that would violate the third rule, so T could not have both I and M. So for that reason, D is our answer to number 15. Next, number 16, if Y had M, what would have to be true? So we can look at our two main diagrams here and place, M on Y in both of these two different distributions here. Of course, that means YI is not happening, so T will have to have S as a result. So we can stick that down. The bottom diagram is pretty fully determined here. Of course, M and S have already been placed, so we have F, G, and I remaining. The top diagram is a little bit more ambiguous. We would have to make sure that I and F don't go together. So one of them will go on T, and the other would have to go on W, and then we simply have the remaining variable, which is G, going on W. Now, the thing is that the bottom diagram here is actually impossible because it forces I and F to be together, which we know cannot happen. So just take this scenario and run through the choices. What must be true? TF, no, F could go to W instead. TI, no, I could go to W instead, so that's out. Looking at C, WF, not a must. Looking at D, yes, of course, W is going to G for certain, so that's our answer. And then WI, of course, was not a must there. So D is our answer for 16. Next, number 17, if a family owned both G and I, what could be true? So we actually know that T cannot be that family because for the same reason number 15 was D, T could never have I without having S as well because of that third rule of the game. So if a family is going to have both G and I, it's going to have to be family W. And so we can lay out that, in the 2-2-1 layout here, W gets GI, and in the 1-3-1 layout, G is also getting I. Now, of course, this means that YI is not happening, so T will have to have S for sure. There's no way around it, just because we've got to meet that condition that TS or YI occurs. So T is definitely getting S here. So we're going to have F and M remaining, and they're interchangeable. Essentially, we don't really care which way they go. They could alternate. The bottom diagram is more determined because I cannot go with F. So for that reason, F is going to have to go on Y, and then M will go to W. And that's the whole layout. These are the two possibilities. Running through the choices, what could be true? TG never happens. TM does happen in that top possibility. We could have, S going with M instead of with F. So for that reason, B is our answer to 17. Next, number 18, if T had exactly one building. So we're not in the top distribution, we're specifically in the bottom one. They're asking us, what could be the building that T has, if we're in this distribution specifically. From the question we just did, number 17, we know that T could have S only, so any choice not mentioning S, we can automatically eliminate. So that gets rid of A, B, and D off the bat. We're down to C and E. So the question is, could T have I only, or could T have M only and F only? Well, if we gave T I only, we run into the issue with the third rule, where if T does not have S, Y has to have I. That's the very reason that 15's answer was D. So T could not have I only, because then we won't be able to fulfill the condition of that rule. So for that reason, C is gone, and we're left with E by elimination. We don't even have to test it out. And that's the game.